Now that we've gone over the surface dressing of this film, let's talk about the story of the movie. And one of the worst things about it is it's not just one story, it's 3 different stories that have been smashed together without much room to breathe, meaning that it feels strangely paced and contrived in order to make things reach its end point, which is also a mess. The first story we see is of Jamie taking Spike into the mainland in order to perform his initiation ceremony of killing infected and surviving in the harsh world they live in. And there's just so many different things about him that don't really add up, both in terms of personality and skill set. The first scene is of him getting Spike ready to go to the mainland, ensuring their inventory is well stocked, having an argument with his wife Isla, and then meeting with the elders, before heading off into the mainland to start Spike's ceremony. Now, on the surface, this seems to be presenting a lot about his character, being a well-prepared father who is loving enough to understand and put up with his ill wife, who undergoes outbursts due to her illness, and then heads off to guide his son to be a stronger man. But the fact he is even taking his son on this trip to begin with means this characterization is completely meaningless, because why the fuck would he be doing this? Spike is nowhere near old enough to be venturing out onto the mainland, lacking the fighting skills and physical prowess to take on the infected. There's no real reason as to why he would be doing this, except it gives him a sense of pride, and I feel like you have to be a pretty shit person to risk your child's life just because you want people to admire you and your son. They venture out onto the mainland, with him showing his son various different points of interest, such as the forest they use for supplies and firewood, and then they reach their first set of infected. Now, this is a man who has been on many expeditions onto the mainland. He understands the different types of infected and how they operate, and I want you to pay attention to 2 different scenes here.
If there's one visible, probably a couple more in the trees.
The infection takes away their minds. He's got no mind, he's got no soul.
Now, this sums up Jamie's entire perspective on the infected. He acknowledges that because of the virus they tend to operate in groups now and will be hyper-focused on any signs of survivors, and as such you have to be prepared to deal with several of them if you come across one of them, which is proven to be true several times throughout this film. He also believes that those who have been infected by the virus are no longer themselves and in fact aren't even human, with putting them down being the kindest and most humane thing to do to them. They come across a slow low in front of them and decide to have Spike take it out. He instructs Spike on how to take the shot and then proceeds to just hang around looking at him instead of being on alert for any other infected that might be in the area, which, as we see, there is a slow low right behind him moving towards them, but because the movie wants to cause tension in this scene, they choose to make Jamie an idiot who doesn't bother to hear the groaning or the leaves rustling until the last moment. Now, both of them take out an adult slow low, and then without hesitation, Jamie takes out one of the child infected. But then when another child infected is stood right in front of him, he just doesn't do anything. Despite his insistence on how he views them and the fact that he already killed one of the child infected, he then lets this one go for no reason, even if it might alert the other infected nearby about where they are and lead them to them. They keep on venturing throughout the countryside until they come across an old house, with an infected person in it that doesn't acknowledge their presence at all until the film informs it that there needs to be tension in this scene, at which point it springs back to life and Jamie forces Spike to kill it, after which they come across the trophy kill that the alpha left behind. Now, Jamie is aware of the alphas and how they operate, which is why he immediately recognises that this is the work of the alpha and they need to leave. He then chooses to keep walking into a direction that's away from where they came from, and then he walks out into an open field where there's no cover, meaning that they can't hide and they're immediately spotted and then hunted by the alpha. And throughout this chase, Spike is shown to be severely out of his depth and struggling to get into the attic, only surviving because the infected are idiots.
Alphas aren't like the others. I've seen it take a dozen hits to drop one of those things.
You see how nothing related to Jamie's character makes sense? He decided he would come out alone with his son, who was severely underprepared to start fighting regular infected, when he knows how the alphas work and how much damage it takes to kill them before they kill you. This isn't really an initiation ceremony, it's basically a suicide mission he brought his son on because he was bored, I guess. And yet, on the other hand, he seems to deeply care about Spike because he constantly praises him and tells him he's doing well even when he's not, so I really don't know what I'm supposed to think of his character. Spike asks about other communities out in the mainland, with Jamie confirming there are others around them. But when Spike asks him about the big fire going on, he insists he doesn't know about that one. During the night, their shelter is collapsed by a deer herd and they're forced to go back to the causeway, which should be low enough now for them to get across. They make their way there, and because the alpha is an idiot, they don't get attacked until they're halfway through making their way across, after which they manage to alert the rest of the residents there and get rescued by them. And then the movie just seems to go out of its way to make him as dislikable as possible for no reason. He constantly tries to make his son the center of attention, even though he's clearly overwhelmed and nervous about being in front of so many people. He then forces him to drink beer that causes him to be violently sick, and then in the least subtle way possible he decides to go outside with his affair partner where everyone can see them, allowing Spike to catch up with them where he sees that he's cheating on Isla. Spike then learns from a family friend, Sam, that the fire belongs to a man named Kelson, who was a doctor before the war, and that Jamie does indeed know about him. Jamie later comes into the house after being out all night, and in the kitchen, Spike demands to know why Jamie lied about not knowing what the fire was. Jamie explains that in the past, he and some of the other survivors used to venture far into the mainland to look for resources and hunt the infected, when they then came across Kelson with rows of dead bodies around him and a cremator nearby, and he then proceeded to wave at them, with Jamie believing that there is something wrong with him and he's not to be trusted. Just to give a recap here, there's a virus that through a single drop of blood has the ability to completely infect another individual and turn them into infected, and Jamie found it extremely suspicious that this man was cremating the bodies of the infected, which would completely destroy any infected cells that would go on to harm other people. And then despite the horrible world they live in, the thing that unnerved Jamie wasn't him walking towards them, which could be seen as a menacing gesture, or shouting at them, which might have made them think he's unhinged and drawn other infected to them, but the fact that he decided to wave at them, a silent, passive motion that symbolises a greeting and that he isn't a threat. If he saw the bone temple, I would get that. That's massively fucking weird and threatening looking, but this explanation of a wave is just ridiculous. You're telling me that Jamie would rather watch his wife continue to get worse and worse in her illness and lie to his son because he got scared that a man waved at him. And then when Spike confronts him about this, he proceeds to hit him and verbally abuse him, and then after Spike makes it clear he feels threatened by him and Jamie takes his knife away, he does give it back before angrily punching the wall and storming off instead of trying to bother to try and apologise and explain things better. After Spike and Isla manage to leave the community and begin their journey across the northeast, they are camping in an old cathedral when Spike is nearly killed by a Slolo. He is then saved when Jamie shows up and kills it. Oh, wait, that was Isla. Never mind. Later, the two of them are being chased by the infected and get cornered in a gas station, and after nearly dying they are saved when Jamie comes to rescue them. Oh wait, that was Eric. Never mind. And after saving the baby and running from Samson, Spike is nearly killed by him when Jamie shows up to save him. Oh wait, that's Kelson. Never mind. So, what has Jamie been doing throughout the other two acts of this film? Absolutely nothing. We see that at the end of the film he's just been sat in his house waiting for them for no reason whatsoever. You have this man who's supposed to care about his wife and child despite his flaws, who is extremely well suited to tracking and fighting in the mainland, who knows exactly where these two people are trying to head to, and the individuals that he's trying to find are a 12-year-old boy who can't really walk too many miles before getting tired, even more so if he's been fighting and overexerting himself, and a woman who has terminal cancer that is attacking her lymph nodes, causing her to be forgetful, dizzy and tired for long stretches of time, and would mean they would have to stop for her to rest a lot of the time. And Jamie apparently did fuck all to try and get them back. This scene here, this should have happened right after the two of them reach this monument and go off into the woods. We should have seen him tracking their journey across the northeast, and he should have been there during Isla's death, apologising for the pain he caused and taking the baby back home with him while trusting that Spike would be able to handle himself on his own journey of self-discovery, proud of the man he's become. But we don't get that. We have a man who is smart enough to boil water to keep it free from contaminants, but can't comprehend why a man would be burning infected bodies. We have a man who is supposed to have a good understanding of the infected, including the alphas, and then chooses to bring a 12-year-old boy with him to fight them, and gets taken by surprise from some of the fattest fuckers on the planet. We have a man who lies to his son because he doesn't want his son to die on a pointless expedition, and despite his flaws, still loves and cares for his wife, and then proceeds to sit around scratching his balls when for all he knows his family's getting torn apart on the mainland. And this is apparently a well-written, complex character. Thanks for watching, lads and lasses. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing and checking out some of my other videos. Sharing always helps, and if you're feeling really generous, please consider my Patreon or YouTube membership. I also have a Twitter and occasionally I do live streams. But most of all, I just hope you had a great day, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.